Good morning, boys and girls. All right, on to another few pages of Mr. Turrup. All right, so we will start with Luke. Now, just to set the background for you a little bit. They are in the hospital. The class is there as well as some other teachers. A little thing that we figured out too as we went along was that Mr. Turp didn't have any family there. So it's got to be a tough thing. So let's see where this goes. Luke, I'd visited the hospital several times, but never once had I gone to the waiting room. Not until I sat there with my class on brain surgery day. Sat for hours. The room had a nice layout. The architects had found a way to maximize, dollar word, the area while keeping a large perimeter. The room represented a rectangle with little sections of the wall jutting into the interior here and there. This created corners and smaller spaces within the large room. I figured this was important because people wanted privacy. At least that was how it felt while I waited. Little discussion about the setting as we've been learning about. All right. Now we're on to Danielle. We sat together in the waiting room. I sat next to my mother. We left Grandma home, not knowing how she would handle being in the company of Terry and Anna. Anna sat across from us, next to her mother. A large wooden coffee table rested in the middle of everyone. It reminded me of our class meetings. We didn't form a circle on the floor, and we didn't have the microphone, but it was close enough, except no one talked. Mr. Turrup always started our meetings, so we sat silent until Anna spoke. Thank goodness. But after Luke answered her question, no one else talked, at least not until Jeffrey surprised us. He put our class microphone in the middle of that big wooden table. I stared at it. Then I looked at Jeffrey. How did he know to bring it? Just a hunch, he said. I noticed that he and Jessica were looking at each other. I reached down and took the microphone. Remember the first time Mr. Trupp brought this out? I said. Passed the microphone to Lexi. I was like, Teach is a weirdo, she said. But he turned out to be pretty cool. Sort of like the grass thing. 77,537,412, Luke reminded us. That grass project was awesome. The microphone moved around our square. We shared different stories and memories. It was perfect. Then a doctor came into the waiting room. Now we're on to Jessica. Act 11, Scene 2. Enter a man wearing lime green scrubs and a matching hospital cap, the kind that goes around your head like a shower cap. I saw him the moment he came through the door. Was he coming for us? It was too soon, wasn't it? Had something gone wrong with Mr. Turp's surgery? I stiffened. Then I noticed Jeffrey. He was practically hyperventilating. This place, and especially the sight of a doctor, triggered such horrible memories for him. I wrapped my arm around him and whispered, It's okay, just breathe. My mom also helped comfort him. She sat on the other side of Jeffrey and hugged him too. Mom knew his story, I had told her. But others stared at him, wondering why he was so worked up. The doctor didn't come over to us, and Jeffrey calmed down. Instead, the doctor made his way over to the knitting lady. I saw him take a deep breath as he got closer to her. And I wondered if it was one of those big breaths you take in order to get ready to deliver bad news. He pulled a chair next to the knitting lady and sat down across from her. Once she realized he was there, her hands in yarn and needles all stopped working and rested in her lap. Her eyes looked into the doctor's face. His lips never moved, but his head shook from side to side, and his face expressed sorrow. The knitting lady's strong chin dropped. The yarn and needles fell to the ground, and her hands covered her face. She began to shake silently. and lonesome tears. The doctor placed a hand on her back. He said, "I'm very sorry." He waited for a while, then rose and walked out of the room. I felt silent tears trickling down my cheeks. I looked at my friends and saw some of them with tears too. I was scared, but I wasn't alone. All right, now we're on to Jeffrey, who's kind of been through this experience before. Hard to breathe. So many bad memories, bad news everywhere. I saw the doc walk in. I couldn't catch my breath, Jessica noticed. She and her mom wrapped their arms around me and helped me calm down. The doctor wasn't for us. He handed out his bad news to someone else. I know how that goes. "I'm so sorry," the doc had told my family. That was all he had to say. We knew Michael was dead. All right, a couple more. All right, on to Danielle. Peter took the microphone. He still wasn't talking. He'd answer you if you asked him something, and we weren't ignoring him anymore. But for the most part, he stayed silent, and he never talked about Mr. Turrupt or anything to do with the accident. I held my breath along with everyone else. At least that was what it felt like. I remember the time I said we should invite the collaborative kids to our holiday centers. I saw Mr. T wipe his eyes after I said that. I didn't know why then. Now I do. Peter put the microphone back on the table, and then we'll end off with Lexi. I took the mic again after hearing Peter, like I knew what he was talking about, understanding stuff about Teach that he didn't before. That was true for me too. Teach took me in the hall and said some stuff that I hated him for, really hated, but all he did was tell me the truth. I didn't want to listen. I hated him and the truth. I stopped talking, but I didn't pass the mic yet. I was just thinking. I hope Teach wakes up so he can see that I've listened, I added. He helped me. I like him. I'd like him to know that. I put the microphone back on the table. Peter picked it up again. And on that note, we will be going to Peter the next time we read. So have a great one, boys and girls.